Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here on my next Sword Art Online 2 episode review. This one's going to be for episode 19, Absolute Sword. And yeah, this is a pretty good episode. But before I get into that, I'll just explain why I'm not on camera this time for this video. Basically, just at the time of recording this, only time I can record it, lighting is awful. Like, even if I turn my lights on in my room, it looks dreadful on camera, so... yeah, going to be audio only and just have a screenshot or two up as the visuals of the video. So just be aware of that, and I may have to do this one or two times for certain reviews, so just be aware of that. But yeah, this episode 19, Absolute Sword, really interesting episode. Again, you know, like a lot of the episodes in SAO2, it consists of only a couple of scenes, and that there's really like 4 scenes in this episode. 2 longer scenes and then 2 shorter scenes, really. But definitely interesting that they kind of perfectly get across what they're going for in terms of a main plot of this story arc, especially with Asuna. The idea that they're going to kind of deal with some real world stuff for her, kind of basically do what we haven't really got a lot of with her, and that's kind of develop her, who she is, you know, what her family background is and stuff like that more, and then in game contrast that to her kind of issues with her family. And I think the scene with her mother kind of represents that like really well. Like it's kind of like a 10-minute long scene of just the two of them talking in this kind of really tense, slightly awkward scene at the dinner table. But it gets across what Asuna is dealing with, and even though, like, as Lisbeth calls her, like the last episode a few times, you know, the rich girl, she still has all these things that she is dealing with, and that she is being put under a lot of pressure because of the family that she comes from, and it's mainly her mother, as we find out here, who is really kind of pressuring Asuna to make sure that she be the best she can be in school, and constantly forcing her, you know, to think about the future, think about your career path and college and stuff like this, when she is just kind of trying to just kind of figure things out. And it's interesting the way it kind of goes, in that her mother kind of starts to get pretty controlling, that she wants to move Asuna out of the basically school for the SAO survivors, away from her friends. She clearly doesn't approve or care about Asuna's gaming and stuff like that. So you can sort of see that she is a character, Asuna's mother, who doesn't get it, doesn't understand the virtual world and how it's different than just a game. As mentioned, when, like, we know that they all were doing their homework together. Yes, there was some joking around and stuff like that, but they were doing their homework in game, and she clearly doesn't get it. So that in itself is an interesting concept, that, you know, she doesn't approve of this for various reasons, and just doesn't understand it at all either. But yeah, just this idea that Asuna is dealing with this outside of the game, the idea that her parents don't really agree with her gaming. They want to move her away from this school. They want to put a lot of pressure on her in terms of accelerating her education. They mention that she's behind and that the school isn't good enough that she goes to right now. And it all, you know, Asuna starts to get pretty frustrated, but you can sort of tell that she doesn't want to get kind of feisty like the character that we know she is with her mother, because of this tenseness that there is between them. And that in itself, you know, is an interesting thing that they obviously explore over the course of the series. But just this idea that when she wakes up after kind of coming out of the game, she asks the cleaner on the way out, you know, is my mom here? And she says, yeah, she's waiting for you in there. And the way they kind of play it up in contrast to the bright, colourful world where ALO, where Asuna is kind of like the centre of attention. She's so happy being around her friends, Kirito, Yui. Then she is at home where she should be really comfortable, but she's walking down a hallway in her house, and the scene is really dark, that she's walking up to these dark doors. The atmosphere is really tense. She walks inside, and there's this severe awkwardness with her mother, and just tenseness that comes across really well. and just the way that it starts off, gets across exactly who her mother is. This idea that, you're late, I want you here 5 minutes early next time. And it's just like, whoa, that's intense. And then, like, towards the end of the scene, obviously Asuna walks out. She gets kind of frustrated and just like can't handle any more of this. And on the way out, kind of just says that, yeah, is this all because what was it? She kind of says, I know you're ashamed of kind of our grandmother and grandfather, and that you weren't born into a kind of noble family, and that's why you're kind of forcing me to do this so much. It was this extreme armor-piercing question that just was the one thing to put any emotion into Asuna's mother. That was really interesting, that's where this is all coming from. This idea that she comes from rich parents. Her mother obviously married her rich father, and they want Asuna to kind of continue that on. But Asuna kind of relates more to her grandparents, who are, I suppose, more normal people. Which in itself is just a very interesting concept that they're dealing with. And then straight away you cut back into the game, and she has that nice scene with Kirito, kind of setting up her match with Yuki, Absolute Sword, Zekin, whatever you want to call her, and where she's just completely at ease around Kirito and is just asking about who Zekin is. And we get more on the whole why Kirito lost the match, and he says that he kind of went all out, and he reveals that the question he asked during the duel was, are you a full-time diver in the game? And he got no answer, but the attack came then. So you get this idea that Kirito is aware that whoever he's facing is in the game 24/7, basically. That their life is the game. And they don't go into much more depth than that, other than to kind of suggest that this character Zekin plays the game a lot, and that's where a lot of the skill comes from. And then they still kind of go, like, when Asuna actually sees Yuki and sees that she's a girl and is just wondering why no one told her, she's kind of like, oh, another reason you didn't win the duel was because it's a girl, is that right? And she kind of stares pretty intensely at Kirito. And he basically kind of admits similarly that, yeah, he also didn't go all out on her because she's a girl. But as I said before, didn't use Excalibur, didn't use dual swords, and held back naturally, plus because she's a girl. So a lot of things kind of going into kind of like making that duel not really that telling about everything. But yeah, and then very quickly we get into the match between Asuna and Yuki, after obviously the reveal that she is just a kind of girl younger than Asuna, and kind of really kind of almost shocking that that's the case, that this is apparently the new best player in the entire game, this kind of girl that's come out of nowhere, who's really young and just isn't anything like the descriptions that Asuna got. She pictured this big guy who's amazing, and it's just this kind of small girl who happens to be amazing. And yeah, you don't get really too much on Yuki's character in the duel. It's just like, okay, she's really strong, really fast. The character stuff still remains on Asuna during this fight, which I found really interesting. The idea that she's constantly remembering what happened in real life in the game, which isn't something she usually does, and she kind of gets upset earlier on in the episode about how there's such a contrast with her between the virtual and real world, where she was a warrior in the game, but she kind of has no power whatsoever, no control in real life, because her parents are obviously trying to control things. She herself doesn't really know what she wants to do in real life and stuff like that. So just really great character stuff set up for Asuna already, and it affects her in the duel, and it takes her kind of like seeing kind of Kirito's kind of concerned look at kind of the way the duel is progressing, and just her desire to kind of make a good match of it and prove that she is one of the best players in the game herself. And she just has this really, really awesome fight back that kind of takes Yuki severely by surprise, with the intensity of like the berserk healer basically coming at her with all these amazing sword skills. And it was a really cool fight just to see, like, long, kind of protracted, just really quick. They both have kind of similar styles of fighting, quick cuts all over the place, and it just worked very nicely as a duel. And then obviously Asuna gets overpowered eventually when Yuki activates the sword skill 11 hits, and before she like ends the duel, she stops and basically says, Asuna, like, it's you, like, I choose you, you're the one I want. And she kind of takes Asuna away and everyone's confused, and she just says that, you know, you have to, I've chosen you to help us. And that's where they basically end the episode, with this idea that the whole reason she was fighting all of these duels was to find someone that she considered strong enough to choose for something. We're later going to find out, of course, that she wants her and her group to be remembered as the group who cleared one of the floors of Aincrad, so they will always be remembered. And there's a lot of other reasons for that come into play later on, but that her group isn't big enough or strong enough and they need another player, and she's chosen Asuna because she can see something in Asuna that fits the group, which is a really interesting idea. They don't get into it obviously too much in this episode, but comes into play as the episodes progress. But definitely, you know, it's the sort of thing where you question, like, why didn't she choose Kirito? He's clearly strong and stuff like that. But again, it comes back to the nature of his fight with Zekken, and that he figured her out straight away, that the idea that he knew that she was in the game 24/7. And as the things progress with Asuna, obviously it turns out that she never wanted anyone to know that. But, you know, a really solid second episode of this arc, continuing to kind of set up Asuna as the main character. The scene with the mother I thought was really good in how realistic a scene it felt. The emotion from Asuna, and just the kind of almost kind of villainous kind of the way they set up the mother, and that just not understanding of any of the things that Asuna is interested in, and understanding why Asuna is so against everything being kind of done for her, with none of her decisions put into play. Like, even some of the other stuff, like stuff I didn't mention, like the fact that they bring up the idea of, like, her mother's trying to set her up for marriage with someone so she can marry into a more noble family, and she obviously disapproves of Kirito and has gone as far as to look up stuff on him. And so in her mother's the mother's mind, she knows that the mother isn't the Kirito isn't kind of good enough for Asuna, and that's the one thing that makes Asuna snap. That's the thing that makes Asuna leave her insulting and going as far as to, like, investigate Kirito, when obviously she knows that he will do anything to save her. Like, that's what the whole ALO arc was about. This incident that was basically caused by her parents, Kirito saved her from that, and there's kind of no note from the parents about that. The mother just says that was the father's idea, I didn't want to do that, yet she's kind of trying to do the exact same thing, which is with other boys, which in itself is just kind of like, it's not just you're trying to choose her schools, you're also trying to, like, force her into a marriage, which just really makes you side with Asuna in this whole thing. And interesting to see how they actually approach this clearly fractured relationship that Asuna has with her mother and father to a lesser extent. The focus is definitely on the mother-daughter relationship. But yeah, I'm going to end the review there. As I said before, I'll probably have one, maybe two more reviews of SAO during the week. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching this video, and bye.